What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord, here with my good buddy Millennial Mike. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
Dude, I'm good, man. Good to be back with you. I think it's been a couple weeks.
I mean, this is what happens when you actually have real jobs that you have to go to still on the daily.
Yeah,
Not like guys
yeah,
like Zub and Dion. But
yeah.
hey, we love those guys anyway, even though that every day is Saturday or Friday night, as Dion likes to say. But wanted to talk to you today about, I think, really kind of about the pursuit of knowledge in this space in real estate. And I think that it's really interesting because even though I've been doing this for 21 years, I still watch a ton. Like I watch a ton of other YouTubers and always listening, always getting their perspective, then trying to formulate thoughts around this. But one of the things I thought would be helpful was actually taking and with a guy like Ben Mallah, who's allegedly worth $500 million,
Yeah.
allegedly. And the only reason I keep on saying that is because you don't know where these numbers really come from. And are they counting the value of the asset, but none of the debt on the
Mhm.
asset? That's
Right.
probably a lot of what they might be calculating, but maybe I'm wrong. So I think Ben is absolutely awesome. I think he's super, super entertaining. But what interested me was really the kind of questions that he gets that, quite frankly, are not in his wheelhouse at all.
hmm
So
hmm
as part of the investment that I want to make in people that view me and subscribers, I wanted to put together a quick video of a couple questions that, yeah, I paid to ask Ben, get his feedback on what I asked, because I really wanted to understand what his thoughts were on those questions. So
hmm
I know that you've done an amazing job doing some editing of some video. You've got those couple questions. I wanted to kind of go through those, share those with folks, have them hear the answer, and then kind of talk through it because we're both investors and want to kind of talk about the answer because Ben didn't really want to hear my answer, but that's okay.
Yeah. So what happened was Ben had like an hour and a half live stream a week or so ago on his channel, and the lumberjack landlord was just casually chilling in the chat, and he popped off a couple of $20 super chats with some well thought out questions, and Ben responded to those questions. But maybe he left a little bit to be desired, or maybe Matt was expecting a different answer. So what we're going to do is we're just going to listen to the 1 minute, 2 minute clip for the first question and then the second one later. And then we'll just get Matt's reaction and we'll discuss it for a little bit. So, Matt, you ready?
I'm ready, my man.
Shout out Lumberjack Landlord. You buy a deal, are you ever doing fixed rate deals, or are all the deals you are doing interest only payments? If so, at what interest rate do you stop doing deals?
I mean, basically, listen, you're talking about fixed rate. Fixed rate deals means you're locking your interest rate in. If you go to the bank, typically, whatever the adjustable rate is, for an extra point, which could be a lot of money, or maybe less, they'll fix your rate to where you just say, okay, this is your rate, forget about it. This is going to be the rate for the entire duration of the loan. Or you get an adjustable and you play the market and the bounces are up and down. Okay. So, it depends on the market. Right now, I'm still playing the market. I mean, I should have fixed my rate. I could have, but I didn't back 6 months ago. And now I'm paying the price. So, what was the rest of the question now? As far as interest only, I try to always get interest only because I need cash flow. Especially now I need cash flow. Why? Because the interest rates went up. That means I'm paying the bank more money. That means I'm making less money. But, the whole thing is all based on the interest rate. Interest only payments. Well, he got to say.
The last question was what?
Oh, yeah. Now, the point of the interest rate, I see what it is. And this is what I'm dealing with right now. If you go out and you buy yourself a 5 cap, the point is, if you buy a 5 cap and the interest rate's 5%, you're not making no money. All right. It don't make sense. You're going to make 5% on your down payment. That's the end of it. All right. So you stop playing the game when you can't make no money. Now, if you buy a 7 cap and you're borrowing money at 5%, now you got the 2% spread. That makes sense. Okay. But that's when you stop. You have to stop when you can't buy real estate where you can profit some money. If the interest rate's too high and it's killing all your cash flow, leave it alone. It's not the right deal for you or not the right time.
All right, Matt, what did you think of his answer to your question? Did he answer the question you were asking?
Yeah, I think he's absolutely awesome. I honestly I dig Ben. When he live streams, I absolutely hop on. I think that he is a man amongst men, like the deals that guy works on, right? And imagine sitting across the table from him negotiating a deal like you're liable to get something thrown at you. I gotta believe. So
Yeah.
I'm just a huge fan of Ben's. And so I think what's really interesting is I think what I learned was really three things from the answer to that question. And they were the three things I wanted to learn, which is one, does he buy fixed rate deals? He doesn't. He doesn't sound like he buys fixed rate deals. It sounds like he only buys interest only deals. And because he's trying to maximize cash flow. I get it. So from my perspective, I don't like interest only deals. I don't like interest only deals because the type of debt that there is, he's clearly floating.
Mhm.
He's got a float rate, which is we bought at this price 2%, and now it's 3% or 4% or 5% or 6%.
Mhm.
And he even said I could have locked in at a point over, but that's really expensive. So why do people say, well, is 1 point really expensive? 1 point's really expensive when your other option is 2 points for your payment.
Mhm.
So you're going from a 2 point payment to a 3 point payment. That's the difference.
Mhm.
So that's 50% more you're paying to lock in your rate. So absolutely love that about Ben, that he was willing to share that. Because I think that that's something that when you're playing in the big game on those big assets, I think those types of deals are what's kind of commonplace and more acceptable. I think when you're working with smaller residential stuff, ones, twos, threes, and fours, you're not going to see a lot of that type of debt out there.
Mhm.
That's where we talk about a lot about it's a debt game. The second thing that I thought was really interesting that he talked about was as he was kind of going through it and saying, and now I'm making so much less money. That's what scares the daylights out of a normal landlord.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'd be freaking out if I had a 2 and now I'm paying 4.5. Like how much margin was there in that deal for me to have? In line with that is that the other thing that kind of, I guess, kind of scares me about it is he bought deals based on them cash flowing heavy, I'm sure, at 2%.
Mhm.
What happens when it's 5?
Right.
What
Right.
happens when it's 6? Is he even cash flowing at that point?
Mhm.
I don't know the deal. But that's just one of the things for the newbie investors, for the newer investors, for the smaller, more 1, 2, 3, 4 unit investors. That's one of the things to really think about is that 30-year fixed rate debt where you're not going to have that problem or that challenge that Ben's going to need to find a way to overcome. You're not going to have that issue. You've got 30-year fixed rate debt. So whatever your rate is, whatever the math was, likely that's going to be the math forever. But over a 10-year period, rents will only go up.
Mhm.
Even if they plateau and flatline for a few years, they will eventually go up and catch up on some of those, flat year returns. So that's the second thing I took away from that. And the third thing I took away was just kind of a common sense lesson, which was only buy great deals.
Mhm.
That's basically what Ben said. Only buy great deals. Because he's like, if you're at 5 and the cap rate's 5, then you're at 0.
Right.
Awesome. If you're at 5 and it's at 7, then you're picking up the spread of 2 points. The issue is that the spread of 2 points isn't really a big deal on a typical property that most of the people that watch Lumberjack Landlord and One Rental at a Time and Millennial Mike and Dion Talk Financial Freedom, the typical investor on that level isn't on that level with that kind of deal.
Mhm.
If you're making a spread of 2 points on $180,000 a month of income, it's something, it's something.
Right.
It's a much bigger number than if it's $1,800 and it's $36. So that's where the real key is. So it'll be real interesting to see. I'm a huge fan of Ben's, and yeah, I think he was really funny. You edited out the part where he basically, asked if I rented out log cabins, and so I thought he was good thinking on his feet. I thought that was pretty funny.
Did he say that in that, or was that the second clip that
Might
he
have been the
said?
second. Might have been the second clip, but yeah,
Okay.
it was. I think he's because I'd asked questions in other super chats. We got another one that we'll do in another week or so, where I thought the advice that he gave was awesome
Mhm.
for the type of borrower he is, and I think it was rough for the type of investors that we are and that we work with.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the folks that are on YouTube, I mean, think about it. How many $500 million massive complex owners are watching YouTube? Probably not a lot, right? It's probably
they're probably all creators, right? They're probably all content creators.
That's true. They might be making some content and selling some courses, but they're probably not just cruising through looking for advice. The people who are going to be the first time investors, the small time guys trying to get started out, people who are hoping to get started out. So that's where it's like, okay, if you watch this advice from Ben Mallah, you might be saying to yourself, oh, well, great, I'll just get an interest only loan on the single family house I'm going to rent out. And that might not be the best advice for you. Here's a situation where you may be looking at doing interest only. So recently I took out a HELOC on my first house hack duplex. Well, the HELOC has an option for the first 10 years I take money out on it, and I can just pay interest only on it. And that's more of an advanced strategy. It's more risky. I'm not paying any of the principal down, and it's subject to change. It's a variable interest rate. Right. So I did a HELOC so that I could buy a house, remodel it, do the BRRRR strategy. My plan is when I'm done remodeling it, it will have increased 40, 50% in value. I'll be able to cash out refinance on the back end and pay the entire HELOC off in one fell swoop. So there's no point for me to pay the principal on it because 6 months later, I'm just going to pay it all off anyways. So that's a situation that a smaller time investor like me, like you, well, not you, but your viewers, like me, like your viewers, might find themselves wondering, should I do interest only? But again, I only recommend that if you have enough foundational basis of other cash flowing rentals so that if something goes wrong, you can cover your costs, your expenses, unplanned expenses in the remodel. So, but I wouldn't recommend a first time rental purchaser to be like, yeah, I'm going to do an interest only loan with an adjustable rate mortgage. Probably not a good idea. But yes, Ben is very entertaining, but he might not be giving great advice to a first time rental purchaser.
Yeah, I think that if you're getting into commercial stuff, because that's really where he specializes, what's interesting is his son had done a lot with single family homes. And, his dad, I watch a lot of that stuff, and he's just on him. He's just on him. He's like, no, this sucks, and you need bigger, and it's super entertaining. Like I said, I think Ben's amazing. I think he's an awesome entertainer. And I think that if you're trying to get into commercial, like large scale, like that sort of stuff, I don't know that there's anyone better because he's no nonsense. He just looks at the deal. It's cool. But I know that you had a second clip for us. We kind of go through and talk about that one.
Yeah, we'll jump into your second super chat of the Ben Mallah live stream.
Look at the money I'm investing in making sure that people know that we want good questions for great people.
Okay, here we go.
Shout out Lumberjack Landlord. Thank you again for the $20. Thanks, Ben. No log cabins. I'm a 9th grade dropout. I own 121 units, 41 buildings, and now stacking cash to buy some bigger stuff. Thanks for sharing your knowledge.
Hey, we got a lot in common. I graduated in the 9th grade. They told me that if I went to summer school and took this crazy class in algebra, that they'd give me a diploma and for the junior high school, which I did, and that's where I stopped going to school. So, I dropped out in the 9th grade too. And that's great. You got 121 units, you got 41 buildings, and stacking cash, baby. Keep doing it. Keep doing it, man. Come on down to the show and bring your axe with you. I'll get a couple of telephone poles and we'll chop them down. All right.
Such a character, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that you want to hang out with. The only challenge is it's about $600 to hang out with him for 15 minutes.
Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is I probably might do that someday just because I think he's just hilarious. But I think, the reason I pose the question that way is I think that anytime that I'm seeking the answer to a question, it's really important to me that the person I'm seeking the answer from has a level of context. A 4-unit, 1 building, I'm asking that question or making those comments, I'm going to get a different answer, I would assume, than, hey, I've got 121 and 41. That's really the reason that I phrase things like that, is I want to make sure that I'm giving them the benefit of some information before they kind of package things up and send it back to me. It was the way of getting some feedback from him of if he didn't like the idea of stacking cash and if he wasn't doing the same thing, then he would have been like, oh no, I don't know what you're doing. Don't stack cash.
Right.
And I would have been like, okay, then he would have said why. So the fact that he kind of agreed with the question, agreed with the strategy, I like it because that's why I posed the question the way that I posed. And so I think that the lesson that can be learned from this, and kind of the idea that I wanted to share with folks from this, was give people some context in the question that you're asking. I own 4 properties and 15 units. I own this and this. The other difference too is that obviously in any market, 41 and 121 is a lot. You know, 4 in Seattle versus 4 in, you know,
Gary, Indiana is a big
yeah,
difference.
exactly. Huge difference.
Yeah.
So I think that matters a little bit, but when you're at that level or that volume of unit, then it's something like, okay, it takes something to run that business.
Right.
So I appreciated his answer. Like I said, I think he's super entertaining. I think if you're going down the commercial real estate path, there's probably no better guy to learn from. Like, I mean, Grant's pretty good too, but we'll see how things roll there. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ben's. I appreciate him taking the questions. He doesn't have to. There are some questions that people pay for that don't get answered. And I think it's an oversight on their part, just because they get so many. Like, when I tell you that super chat lights up, like it lights up, it keeps on going.
Most of those bigger shows, they'll say right at the beginning of the show, like, we're going to put all super chats on the screen, but unless you're $20 or up, I've even seen some shows be like, you got to be $50 and up, because we just get so many super chats. Like, you got to fight to get your question answered.
Wow. Yeah. I haven't seen anything like that, but I have seen obviously a lot on the super chat side. And like I said, Ben's a phenomenal entertainer. I think anytime that you can be entertained and be learning something, I think is a huge win, because most often people tap out when they're only learning something, but they're not entertained. So, Mike, any other thoughts on kind of what Ben had to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good dude. I remember when I first got introduced to him, Graham Stephan did a video years back called like the $250 million man. Well, since then, of course, thanks to all of the inflation, you know, I'm sure his assets and his own business growing has just skyrocketed. So he's been around, he's been giving advice for a while. I like that he's a character, he's relatable. I just never liked rich people. I grew up too poor. I like the blue collar guy who made it. And you can just tell that he's just a no nonsense dude. Like, you'd hang out with this dude and talk trash about politics with this dude and go to the shooting range with this dude. So that right there is a relatable factor I think most people like. So my only advice would be, you know, just be aware if you're getting advice for your first single family home rental, might be different than the advice that he's giving, but absolutely you should watch his stuff, pay attention to what he has to say, because he's a smart guy, and you could do a lot worse on YouTube with some other creator. So
yeah, I think the big thing that I like about, you know, to that end, I think that I really like that it's a different asset class. It's a different way of thinking for the really big type of assets. And then the stuff that he interacts with, you know, with his son, you know, and doing some of the single families there, I think that's cool. So, like I said, I'm a huge Ben Mallah fan, you know, and I'll still keep on watching his live streams, and quite frankly, super chatting. I've got questions for him, and I want to make sure they get answered, because I'm very interested to see how he's going to handle the dynamic in the market that we're kind of going through right now, especially with him being, you know, in Florida. So. As I always say, we try and create great content for you, Mike. I appreciate all the work that you put into those videos. Please tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Just look me up on Google, Instagram, or YouTube. Just type in Millennial Mike. I'll pop up, or you can find me here on One Rental at a Time or Dion's channel. I'm kind of just all over the place. I'm a channel. Well, I can't say the word I'm thinking of. I just get around.
Yeah. But yeah, you can always find him here, Lumberjack Landlord. Also, One Rental at a Time, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, part of the 4 REI Avengers. So, Mike, thanks so much for that. Guys, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, also the like button as well. We want to continue to make great content for you, and we look forward to the next video. Thanks again, Mike, so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.